Hey y'all, I hope you're having a good week, and I wanted to make a video just kind of giving you a recap of some of the films, books, movies, and things that I've been consuming and loving lately. I've really been on an 80s kick, like sci-fi, Lost City, adventure movies. I'm just been really curious as I'm working on my own work in progress novel right now. What are some of the films and TV shows that really impacted writers and popular culture in the 80s, 90s, and beyond? So, one of the films that I watched recently, Romancing the Stone from 1984, absolutely loved. It was so campy and fun. I'm really looking forward to watching the sequel, hopefully this week. If you like Indiana Jones, but also movies about writers, adventures, you might like this. A lot of these films that I'm going to share are really dated, so just take them with a grain of salt. There's so many films from the 80s and 90s that have a lot of cringe moments or things that just would not fly in films now. So I try to just go into these things with a state of suspended belief so I can just enjoy the story and not have my critical thinking brain on too much. Congo is another one that I found really fascinating. I mean, this film is campy to the extreme. There is a talking gorilla named Amy who loves to drink martinis. I mean, it is a wild ride of a film. Ghostbusters, which I talked about the other day, I actually really enjoyed. I'm slowly getting into this franchise and watching some of the original installments that inspired the series. But most recently, I watched Frozen Empire and I really enjoyed it. The Wild Robot, which was a very sweet and tender story about motherhood, about the sacrifices you make for the people you love, and about just really believing in yourself and going beyond what society says is capable, that you are capable of. I just thought it was a really tender-hearted, wonderful film, and I absolutely loved it. Ghost in the Shell, I gave a good review because I could tell that they just put so much like time, effort, and energy into this movie. But I don't like that they whitewashed the casting, and I also just feel like I I don't know. I just feel like this series is maybe not for me. Like I'm gonna give the original cartoon, the anime, like a try because I heard it's just so well regarded. But this story didn't really like suck me in as much as I had been hoping. Although I did just enjoy the experience of watching the movie with my dad, so it ended up being like a good memory. This was a very interesting film from 2007, which has so many people who would go on to become household names, really famous actors. Michelle Yeoh, who was already famous at the time, in Malaysia especially. This was one of her early, like, huge American roles in an American film. I mean, it's this really interesting film about these people who have to go and like put this thing inside the sun, or else the world is gonna like stop working. And there's this ice age that's happening on Earth. It has so many just like random famous people in it. It's very interesting. I think that the first two acts of the film were really well done. Cillian Murphy's also in it, and I love him. The third act of the film kind of lost me a bit. I think that the way they wrapped it up was a little bit, it just like was inconsistent plot wise and didn't make sense, but still really enjoyed this. I definitely would recommend watching it. I did already record a video about this, but can't recommend enough this 1989 film by James Cameron. It is really campy and delightful. This sort of meeting aliens at the bottom of the ocean thriller. Yeah, I just loved it. So the thing that I've started to get into that I'm really excited about is Stargate. So I know that there are so many star related like nerd fandoms in the sci-fi universe, especially like Star Wars, Star Trek. But Stargate is one that I don't hear talked about as much, probably just because I'm not in the circles. Like I hadn't seen the movie before. But I finally watched the 1994 movie with James Spader. I absolutely loved it. Kurt Russell as well. It was very campy, very funny. It reminded me of the Disney film Atlantis. You have all of the classic tropes, the scientists who nobody believes, the pyramids are actually this portal through time and space that the aliens have made. It's a really fun, just like kind of one of those films that it's like, I don't know, it's like Planet of the Apes. You just have to go in with an open mind. So many just really talented actors in this film. And what I was really impressed by as well is the way that they were when they recasted. So they have a TV show that's kind of built on this whole world, and it went for 10 seasons. There's multiple sequel movies and spin-offs. There was Stargate Atlantis. There was multiple TV movies, but the person that they cast to replace James Spader literally looks exactly like him and adopted the same mannerisms. It's crazy. Oh, and just random plug, if you watch a lot of TV like I do, there is this app called Serialized. It's basically exactly like Letterbox. It's a community way to log the TV shows that you're watching. I just started and I have been like trying to catch up and relog things that I've watched in the past. And I'm already up to 3 months spent watching TV in my lifetime, which I was like, wow, that is a lot of time to spend on television. But then I looked at the leaderboard and look at this. This person who's in number one for like the world on Serialized has logged 18 years worth of television. Like that is wild. Anyway, so I started logging my watch of Stargate on Serialized because it's fun to see the community reviews, what each episode is ranked. Such a fun show so far. I'm about like 10 episodes in. It seems that the consensus is that things kind of start to really get better and better with each season up through season 4 or 5 and then kind of dips back down. I thought that the first 2 episodes, Children of the Gods Part 1 and 2, do a really good job paying homage to the original film and kind of making sure that they, touch on all of the notes, but also introducing new cast members and then also making very clear who the recast people are that are from the original film. Also, interestingly, the show has a few early missteps in season 1. Like season 1, episode 4, a lot of people say just to skip it, like they don't know what the writers were thinking. It's very offensive. You can see that like the rating too is like 1.6 versus the others that are in the 3-star or more. So I just skipped it because so many reviews were like, don't watch that episode because it'll just turn you off of Stargate. Oh, so I'm actually on episode 10 because tonight I'm going to be watching Thor's Hammer, which I'm really excited about. Apart from Stargate, I've been really enjoying English Teacher. It was so funny. It was only 8 episodes. I loved that it was a queer drama. I loved Brian Jordan Alvarez. It's just so funny. You probably see his TikToks all the time. Also, my face is really breaking out. Can you see on my nose and my forehead? But, say lovey. I've also been thinking a lot about Fallout lately and like re-listening to the soundtrack, all the oldies like Nat King Cole and a lot of the just really interesting artists that they had on season 1. If you're ever thinking to yourself, I would love to see the TV shows that Alex is watching and like see his reactions in real time on my Twitter. You can follow It's Liberation Daily. I mostly tweet about things going on in Sudan, Palestine, and Congo, and amplify other activists. But I also do tweet a lot about like what I'm watching on TV, what movies I'm watching, what I think about those movies. I also will really add, just incredible pop culture updates like Lady Gaga's new music video for Disease, which was incredible. Lately, I've been tweeting about how the casting director just really ate with the James Spader recasting and how this show has just like, bewitched me heart and soul. I'm just so invested. I'm definitely going to be watching all 10 seasons. Like, let's just take a moment to really look at, okay, this is James Spader. This is the actor from Stargate. Like, they literally look identical. And he also, like, gets his sneezes and his, like, all of his mannerisms just right. It's so funny. Also, just some other interesting things that have been happening on the internet lately. Apparently, a Russian court fined Google $20 decillion, which obviously is not going to be paid out, but just I don't know what's going on there. Lady Gaga also posted a Lady Gaga complete playlist of all of her music from like the very beginning to now. Her most recent single, Disease, which has a really interesting music video on YouTube if you're interested, is this really compelling and kind of unsettling thing about a person who's torturing themselves and how like the inner turmoil between your darkness and like loving and learning to love and accept the dark parts of yourself and other past versions of yourself. It's just a really interesting music video and a really catchy song. She did incredible. Speaking of music, if you're ever interested in what I'm listening to, you can always follow me on Spotify. I make playlists all the time. I love listening to music. My most recent playlist, Manic Repeat Vibes, which is an hour and 20 minutes long, is kind of just all of the songs that I have on rotation at the moment. Oh, I also forgot to mention that one of the films that I watched this week that I really loved is 12 Monkeys. This was a really interesting film with Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt that is about a man who is in a prison in 2035 and is sent back in time to stop the release of this major virus that becomes a pandemic. Really interesting film. It's and Brad Pitt's performance is like out of this world. Speaking of film, if you're ever interested in what I'm watching and want to know like kind of the movies that I'm watching and maybe would prefer just to hear about the movies and TV and not the other things I'm interested in, you can always follow me on Instagram. It's the same as here. It's Alex Lopez Writes. And I often just post about films that I really love. This is one of my favorite films. And also highlighting indie films that I think are really important. So if you're ever looking for film recs, I have a bunch. But yes, I would love if you join me as I do my sort of sci-fi adventure 80s, 90s film education. And if you're more into like Letterbox, you can always follow me there. Here's some more of my thoughts from 12 Monkeys. I really liked this film. It brought up a lot for me. Madeline Stowe, too, from Revenge. I mean, she was incredible. And last but not least, I've been really enjoying listening to this Catholic Nerds podcast called Secrets of Stargate. Very much recommend.